welcome to today's webinar. Today we are joined by Hayley Lorimer, who's the Director of Membership Services at the FMB, and Dean Polly, who works at the BBA as Operations Manager South. And we will be discussing the role of the FMB in the industry and how BBA and FMB together can drive quality within the construction industry. A few housekeeping tips before we get on with the webinar. This session is recorded, so please feel free to watch it or share the link with a colleague once we upload it after the end of the webinar. And also, if you have any questions, please feel free to send your questions through our chat feature, which will be enabled for the rest of the session. Now over to Hayley for a short introduction before we get into the webinar and the presentation. Hayley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak at your BBA webinar today, and thank you to everybody who's given up their time to join today's session. Yes, my name's Hayley. I've worked for the FMB now for over 20 years in various roles. I started off in the FMB, the Federation of Master Builders Southern region. I also worked in the Eastern region, and for a time I was head of training for the FMB based at the London HQ. I then moved to my current role as Director of Membership Services in 2016, and I'm now based in the FMB's Leeds office where I am today. We have offices in Leeds, London and Ely, where the insurance services is based as well as representation around the UK in all 4 nations. So we've got offices in Scotland, in Northern Ireland and Wales as well. So I have got a few slides to share today, but before we begin with the slides, I thought you might be interested to know a bit about who our members are effectively. The kind of work that they do and the size of businesses that they are. So the Federation of Master Builders has currently about 7,000 members across the whole of the UK. And when we say they're small and medium-sized enterprises, they tend to be focused at the smaller end of the SME sector. So more than half of them, about 63%, have less than 10 employees, and a significant proportion of those are actually less than 5 employees. When it comes to turnover, around half of them are under £500,000 annual turnover as well. So the types of work that they do are things like extensions, loft conversions, refurbishments, most typically, but also we have significant minorities of members who are slightly larger companies tending to do things like public sector work, some commercial work and some small independent developers as well. So that's the kind of building company that we're talking about, your small local builder who might do your extension or loft conversion for you. So I guess time to move on to the slides then.
Yes, I will quickly share the presentation. Let me know when you can see the presentation.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, great.
So that's the introduction slide. Already introduced myself, so we should move on to the next one. We are the largest trade association in the building industry by number of members, and the Federation was established in 1941. It was actually set up initially in London at the time of the Blitz, when there was a lot of reconstruction work and shoring up of buildings that had been bombed, etc., happening in the capital at that time, as well as massive shortages of building materials, as you can imagine, during the war, and issues to do with fairness of tendering for public sector work with the London councils at the time. So that was why the FMB was set up, and many of the things we did then we still do today. The FMB is recognised throughout the industry, I think, as a badge of quality and distinction for the small builder, because all of our members are vetted at the time that they apply to join the FMB, and their work is inspected by an independent third party, which funnily enough happens to be the BBA, in a large number of inspections that are carried out every year by the BBA on our applicants, and also on an ongoing basis on our existing members, because once they've joined, we continue to monitor them. We inspect their work very regularly in the first few years of membership, and then more of a risk-based approach after that. Once a member's in membership with us, then we provide professional advice and support for that business. And we're very much about promoting high standards in the construction industry. And for us, that's about supporting our members to achieve high standards. So it's more of a sort of carrot than a stick approach. But we do take action and apply sanctions if a member is shown to not be living up to our code of conduct. Sorry, I'm trying to move the slides on with my clicker here, and I've just realised I can't. So next slide, please.
I wanted that for you.
Thank you. So in terms of the services that we offer to our members, so we believe that being a member of the BBA, of the FMB even, inspected by the BBA, allows our members to win better projects than they otherwise would. So through our Find a Builder service, where they can create their own profile, and they can have access to consumers who are looking for a builder to do their extension or loft conversion or that kind of project, who can submit the details of their work on our Find a Builder service, and the builder should get in touch with them, or they can just search as a directory service and keep the builder's contact details to get in touch with them themselves. So the Find a Builder service works in different ways, but we do find that increasing numbers of consumers are visiting that site to find a builder for their project. We also offer them contract templates, and that's one of the most used membership services actually. So the ethos behind our contracts is that they're really straightforward and simple, and with the aim of encouraging every builder and every member of ours to use a written contract with their customer. And you'd be surprised even these days how many builders don't use written contracts with their customers, which leaves both parties with a lack of clarity, particularly if a dispute should arise. And talking of disputes, we have an independent, well, it's a certified dispute resolution service. So we're audited and certified by the Chartered Trading Standards Institute to provide an objective and independent dispute resolution service based on mediation, where we try and find a mutually acceptable compromise where there's been a dispute. We find that consumers really value that service, because if a small local builder is not a member of an organisation like the FMB that's got a dispute resolution service, then where do they go if there's a dispute other than down the legal route? We find it's a really valuable service for our members and well used, and is successful in the majority of cases in reaching a mutually acceptable compromise. We also run an awards scheme. At the moment, that's every other year that we run those awards, and that's aimed at celebrating the great work that our members do all across the country, and it gets us quite a lot of publicity and good PR, positive news stories about our members and the work that they do across lots of different categories and types of work. They also get access to business helplines, which give them legal support, health and safety support, taxation advice, all of that kind of thing. We're a Trustmark scheme provider too, as is the BBA, so we can give our members access to becoming registered with Trustmark as well. And that also means that our membership and vetting criteria have to match up with the Trustmark framework operating requirements, and we're also audited by Trustmark as well to make sure that we are doing the checks that we need to in line with the Trustmark scheme. So we offer a range of different business supports, things like e-learning as well, and Safety Plus is an online platform for simplifying production of risk assessments and method statements that our members can access to. And we've started last year offering business coaching, which has proved really popular. And I think that the next slide just goes into a bit more detail about what the business coaching has to offer. So if you want to move on to the next one, please. Oh no, this is talking about our various communication channels. So we obviously try and keep our members up to speed with developments in the industry, and so we have our bi-monthly in-house magazine, we send out newsletters, we run webinars as well, and we publish blogs and all sorts of information and guidance to our members on things that are changing in the industry. And at the moment, obviously the Building Safety Act is something that we're seeking to keep our members up to date on. So next slide. This is more detail on the business coaching program, which, as I said, we launched last year, and it's looking at things like setting an objective for your business. You know, if a lot of our members join the Federation at the point where they are looking to develop, professionalise and grow their business. But to do that, they need to put a plan in place, and they need to think about things like, what is their motivation for developing their business? How are they going to go about winning more work and the best type of work for them? What things do they need to be aware of in terms of pitfalls along the way that might eat into their profit margins? How are they going to improve their productivity? And in particular, how are they going to make sure they've got the right people on board with the right skills, and that they're all motivated and understand the direction of the business? And how are they going to deliver those quality building standards that we want to see, and access new markets, including sustainability and retrofit, which is something that a lot of our members have expressed an interest in. So this was delivered as an online program. It was an hour-a-week session with a business coach over a 6-month period, and we found that we're running now the second program, and we've already got a full waiting list for the next one. So there's a real massive appetite out there amongst our members for this kind of input. So we're looking to develop that and do much more of it over the coming years. And it's partly about as well helping members to make the most of their FMB membership, to differentiate themselves from the average builder by demonstrating what FMB membership means and what they've had to, the checks that they've had to undergo to have that membership. So next slide, please. So this is just showing you a little bit more about the awards and the wide range of different awards that we have. So Stone Wood Builders in the large picture there were the overall winners of the Master Builder Awards in 2021, and won their nice shiny new Isuzu truck as a result of that, for some really large refurbishment projects that they did. But also we've got the Apprentice of the Year in 2023 in the smaller picture, just showing the range of different awards that we have, you know, across everything from apprenticeships, small refurbishments, large refurbishments, and many other categories in between. So next slide, please. We're also widely regarded as the voice of the SME builder as well, and we do a lot of work on the policy side of things to try and influence government and other stakeholders at national level and at local levels as well, representing the SME builder and their best interests. So we've talked to government about things like the need for a licensing scheme in construction, because it's true to say that anybody can set themselves up as a builder, and all you need to have is a van, really. You don't need any particular qualification or any particular experience or anything like that. And obviously there's a huge amount of consumer detriment that goes on in the home improvement sector, which the FMB is very keen to work with others to eradicate. As I said, we've also done a lot of work around retrofit and energy efficiency, and working to try and give our members access to that market and to help them have the accreditations and skills that they need to do so. SME house building is something that we look at regularly. We've got a home builders group who talk about issues to do with planning, in particular, and financing for small developers. We look at issues around business resilience, and that's part of the reason why we started doing the business coaching as well, to help our members with that. And then skills and training. We have a very active training group as well that talks regularly to CICB and to government and colleges and other training providers about access to training for SMEs. Next slide, please. This is just an image that is demonstrating some of the events that we run. So we do run conferences at national level and also at regional level, local events to network with different industry stakeholders, with speakers from government and other institutions, which is all about keeping our members up to speed with what's happening in the industry. Next slide. So I think this is just coming up to the end of the presentation now, but something I did want to mention was that we have an associate membership category. So for anybody out there who's not actually an SME builder, but is an organisation or an individual that shares FMB's aims around quality in the building industry, such as industry professionals and service providers. So we've got associate members who are perhaps surveyors, accountants, legal advisors, architects, those kinds of professionals who work in our industry and want to work with our members can join us as an associate member. And then they get opportunities to promote their services to our members. They also get an FMB associate logo to demonstrate the shared values that they have with us, and opportunities to attend our events and receive our communications, such as the Master Builder magazine, etc. They can also access some of our business support services, so things like the template contracts, the advice lines, and all of that. No, that was it. You got that right. Move on to the final one. I've finished. Hopefully that wasn't too death by PowerPoint for everybody. I've condensed a lot into a short space of time, but yeah, that's us in a nutshell, really. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That presentation basically, let me stop sharing.
That's it.
Can you see the screen now? Hopefully not.
It's gone.
Right. Thank you. So thank you, Hayley, for discussing with us what the FMB is, and then what the role in the industry and how the FMB supports its members. Dean, my first question to you after the presentation: would you be able to briefly outline the role played by the BBA to inspect FMB members?
Sure. We carry out independent inspections, which involve a combination of building control compliance checks to ensure that that's all been followed, the quality of that work, and also a section of that is for the FMB specific questions like client feedback, etc., etc. We carry out inspections all over the UK, some far-flung remote parts of Scotland and Wales and Devon and Cornwall. So we've got a team of inspectors across the UK. We do have a guy in Northern Ireland, although it's sort of limited work that we carry out in Northern Ireland. But it's been going for quite some years now. I've been with the BBA for just on the cusp of 10 years, and I think it started just prior to that. So we've had a long-standing relationship. Whilst we're independent on those inspections, we do work closely with the FMB to make sure that the ongoing question sets follow the most up-to-date compliance needs. So that's where our part comes into it.
Thank you. Hayley, how does the FMB then contribute to quality and safety across the construction industry?
Okay, so, you know, building on what Dean's just said, our rejection rate is about 20%. So of those applications that come in, whether that's because of a failed inspection that the BBA might have done, or whether that's because of lack of evident trading history or some negative findings when we do the background checks on the builder. There's this variety of reasons, but it does end up at about 20% of applications that we reject, and that's because we want consumers to be able to rely on FMB membership as a badge of quality. So there's that. Once a company is in membership, then we do everything we can to support them to deliver quality. So whether that's in terms of advice, training, the business coaching that we're doing, all of those kinds of issues, that's the most positive way that we can help to achieve quality standards in the industry. But ultimately, the teeth that we have are that a company can be expelled from membership if they're found to be not abiding by the code of conduct, or, you know, flagrantly not treating their customers fairly, not delivering quality work. So yeah, that's where we see our role, really.
Dean, any thoughts?
Probably quite a few, but just to keep it brief, is that FMB clearly have a very strong drive for compliance and quality, and sort of lead the industry on the most important thing, which is the drive to have registration for all builders. Hayley mentioned a point back in her presentation where you can just start up as a man or a person in a van, and you can advertise as a builder, and off you go, and you get good, bad, and indifferent levels of sort of success in that. And also, FMB do really provide a lot of support and guidance to their members, and the feedback that we get when we're carrying out the inspections is that that they really have a very good relationship. And I think that the members, the existing members and the new members that want to join, want to be part of that journey. They genuinely do want to be part of, I'm doing a good quality job and I'm looking after the people's property, regardless of whether that's a very small bathroom upgrade right the way through to a multi-million-pound huge project, whether that's new build or refurb. So definitely the strive there for quality.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dean, and I think there's very few builders out there that actually get out of bed in the morning and set out to do a shoddy job and rip people
Absolutely.
off. But there are quite a lot of builders who maybe need a bit more guidance to help them run what can be quite a complex business and quite a complex set of projects that they might have on the go, which is where we come in, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. All good.
Thank you for that. Haley, just out of interest, how are the builders adapting to the requirements of the Building Safety Act and the additional responsibility that it carries for them?
Yeah, so I would say that at the moment, we're all still trying to get our heads around that. We're all still trying to understand what their additional responsibilities are. And so we would like to be able to give our members more guidance on that. But at the moment, things are still being worked through, aren't they? There's still some regulations that are still in the pipeline. So it's perhaps a little bit early for us to be giving detailed guidance to our members. We're actually hoping that the government will also be publishing some guidance that will be practical and helpful for our members in that regard, because many of them are starting to ask questions about that, particularly, for example, members who do design and build, where there are implications from the Building Safety Act that will affect them. Members who might work on high-risk buildings. I mean, not many of our members, because I've described that they're very small companies by and large, they wouldn't be building high-rise buildings or care homes or that kind of thing, which are high-risk buildings, but they might be refurbishing or doing alterations of buildings, so it impacts them there as well. And particularly the relationship with building control as well is something that is triggering questions from our members. But as I say, we're still in the phase of understanding it and digesting it so that we can advise our members as well.
Would you then be able to outline the key issues or any questions that you're hearing from members about the Building Safety Act?
I think I just, the things that I just mentioned really are sort of members saying, well, I'm installing a new kitchen or bathroom in a high-rise building, but I don't think the Building Safety Act applies to me. Or, quite a lot of our members do design and build, so they'll become duty holders almost in two ways there, and they're not sure the implications of that. So, and the other thing that we're doing some work on at the moment is I mentioned our FMB suite of contracts, which is one of our most used membership services. And those will have to be updated in the light of the Building Safety Act as well. So we've got lawyers working on that at the moment as we speak. So because that will be helpful in clarifying to both members and to consumers who the contracts are aimed at. Really, it's domestic building work that our contracts are largely covering. Just be helpful to clarify the different roles under the Building Safety Act through that piece of work.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think you're right there, Hayley. A quick chip in. Is that any wide-reaching change or introduction of a new guidance, rules, scheme, standards, etc., starts to generate a lot of anxiety because of the unknown, and then the Chinese whispers, wanting to coin a better phrase, I'm not sure. You get different people saying different things to people, right the way from people who are on site, building control officers, etc. But until all of the guidance is published with the rules and regulations that you have to follow, it does create a level of anxiety, especially for SMEs that you say, where they're not working on a high-rise project. But we'll have to wait and see. I think that's the answer. Not a very good answer, I think, but wait and see.
Well, you're right though, Dean. If in the absence of actual concrete information, misinformation tends to circulate, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it actually masks sometimes the progress of introducing all of the information, because people at the level of steering groups, etc., are having to deal with those bits of misinformation to reassure people. So, but it's part of the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
On this note, I think I can add here that if from the audience, if anybody wants to know more about the Building Safety Act, the BBS had held a series of webinars with John Vanstone and Richard Waterhouse to start with, where we discussed the role of the principal designer, architect, and the golden thread of information. We've till now, I think we've had three series from that. So if anybody wants to watch that, it's on our website. So please feel free to watch it. Going on to my next question, which is to Dean. How do you think the industry can work together to improve collaboration in order to drive quality?
Really good question. I think there's many points, but a couple of really important points that I can think of is that there needs to be an agreement to increase work in progress inspections at site at time of build, time of construction or renovation, as well as completed works. So obviously, the more inspections you get, which can be not just a case of you're not doing it right and walking away, but it's giving guidance, etc., where you can give guidance, and also you're flagging up areas where people are either not sure what they're doing. I'm not suggesting that for a minute with the SMEs, but there could be a miscommunication with, as we just said, about the Building Safety Act, etc. But also there needs to be a drive for longer term monitoring of products that are installed. So what I mean by that is a product's performance and guarantee life. It tends to be, it's either inspected as a work in progress or when it's just been completed. So take, for example, a flat roof scenario with a membrane. So that membrane might have a 30, 40, 50 year lifespan with a varying guarantee. But if it's only inspected at over a percentage of it installs at the time of it being installed as a work in progress or when it's just completed, it doesn't stop there. It needs to be continued with a 3, a 5, or a 10-year or more program, depending on the product and where it sits within various levels of safety critical products, etc., etc. So that's for me, the two key drivers is to increase the numbers of inspections, whether it's work in progress or just completed, but also start to look at long-term product inspections to make sure that the work obviously is standing up, the quality of work is standing up to the test of time, but also the product is standing up to the test of time as well. Couple that with the factory inspections of products that have been certified, namely by the BBA. We carry out factory inspections of product in its manufactured state all around the world. So, coupling all those things together will take it to a more a greater improved high level of quality, I think.
Thank you for that. Hayley, what are your thoughts on the same question?
So sort of linked to that, I think, is the issue of financial protection, particularly for domestic homeowners having building work done. And we've done quite a lot of work over the past year or so with Trustmark and with the insurer QANW, who are backing an insurance-backed guarantee product that our members have access to. And I think that obviously the more inspections, as Dean was talking about, are happening on a piece of work, then that lowers the risk for the insurers, doesn't it? So that's something that everybody across the industry can see the benefit from. And for consumers, then, if a building company should happen to go out of business and there's a defect found with the work, then the insurance will kick in and they'd be covered, which I think would go a long way to improving the image of the industry in the domestic homeowner sector. And also, as we were talking about sort of FMB's campaign on licensing in the building industry, not every builder is going to have access to be able to issue an insurance-backed guarantee on their work unless they've been vetted and inspected by one of the industry bodies. So in a way, the ability, if consumers were aware to look for an insurance-backed guarantee on their building project, that might go a long way to improving, you know, consumer protection in our part of the sector. And so if all the industry bodies were talking with one voice about that, I think that would be really helpful, which I think we increasingly are doing, and a lot of that is by insurers and inspection bodies and everybody else.
Yeah, the collaboration is definitely key, I think, because what we're seeing is that the more guarantee providers are now issuing statements that you must be a member of, i.e. an approved installer scheme or some other, you know, inspection criteria. But I think, going back to my point about the long-term inspections, if a product has got a 50-year lifespan and you're inspecting it every 3, 5, 10 years and in very varying intervals, that will give the consumer more confidence. It will give the insurance-backed guarantee providers more confidence. So it will be a positive outcome for all. You know, it will drive quality up really, really well.
Yeah.
It affects a lot of the industry, actually, especially what you've just said about the guarantee providers.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is all the questions that I had, and I can see that we don't have any questions from the audience. I think we've been let go easy. Thank you for both Hayley and Dean for joining us on the webinar. To the audience, if you have any questions after the webinar, you can send us your questions at hello@pbasets.co.uk. Sorry, I forgot the email address for a second. But as I said earlier, the webinar will be available for you shortly. So if you would like to rewatch it or share it with a colleague, please feel free to do so. And thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye.